All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are presenting this. Play it. All right. And here we go.
Anywhere, held to ransom, held to pay. A revolution every day. USS Radio, London, New York begin. It's the blood for spring day.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Truth Stream. I'm Joe. The other half of the show is Scott. He's up top there. And we're here with Delphine. She's known as Lady D. She's a friend of Marin, who we've had on the show. And we're just, I put a post about, a few weeks back, and it was on Instagram, and she responded, and I was like, wait a second, what? I'll have to pull that up. And I just thought we need to do a show, because I think she's been waiting for the right show, and I've been waiting for some of the right info. And Bono and whatever's happened with him has been kind of a big shocker for me. I've seen you two 16 times, and last time I saw them was in 2018. And something just felt weird about the show. And maybe it was my start of my awakening, but it's been interesting ever since. So Lady D, welcome to the show. Well, are you muted? I think you're muted. That's all right.
I am muted. Sorry.
There we go.
There it is.
All the pieces.
Take two. It's wonderful to be here, guys. I've been watching you for a while, so it's great to be here. And yes, I've been waiting for a U2 fan and a Bono fan, such as like I am. And it was so funny because not only did we comment, we went back and forth with the comments, and I said, I have to talk to this guy. And no shit, I opened up my Instagram and I was going to send him a private message. And no sooner did I do that, he had already messaged me. So I'm like, this is destiny. And then we talked on the phone for about an hour and a half, and we realized we're born the same year. We're born 10 days apart, and we're both musicians, singers, and U2 fans. So we are long lost soul brothers and sisters for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. That's really fantastic. I mean, you guys probably know by now Joe's a little bit obsessed with music, and I can't think of an artist that has been more important to Joe, or a group of artists than you two, since I've known him. And I remember the conversation we had about when there was a turning point. This was years and years ago. I've seen you two 3 times, all with Joe. So was it 3, Joe, or 4?
Yeah.
Good memories, but yeah, something was definitely up, and hopefully today we can kind of get that figured out. I'm excited.
Yeah. It was gutting for me. It would talk about part of the awakening. But and I've been trying to figure out, as someone that writes songs, like when you start learning about the gentleman Mike, I think Mike Williams, the Sage of Quay. He's really delved deep into the Beatles catalog. He interviewed or chatted with someone that there was a drummer that drummed on 20 of the Beatles songs. And so you start unraveling that, and you start thinking of, if these are doubles, who's writing the music? Who's performing the music? Who's singing? I mean, what did we watch in Vegas? And we have Vegas 68. I'm sure he's here. He was in Vegas for the Sphere shows, and he was with a group of 8 of his friends that I think he grew up with. And they're not awake. They haven't looked into any of this stuff. And they're all like, that's not Bono. And so then you start wondering, now it's interesting, at the Sphere, they're charging, it's like $100 a ticket ish to see like the CGI version of U2 that played live, last year. And now people are going to see this. And I don't know if they can really tell the difference. And I'm wondering now, were the shows that they were witnessing last year, were those really, what were those shows? There's so many layers to this. So where should we start with this? We have some videos we're going to share, and they're clips of the videos, but where should we start with this fascinating story, Lady D?
Probably start with my personal connection with, I call him Paul. I don't call him Bono, because I equate the nasty, disgusting, decrepit clone as Bono. I call him Paul, but for the sake of everyone here, I'll call him Bono. But his real name is Paul David Hewson, Hewson. A lot of people misspell it as Hewson or Houston. It's not. It's Paul David Hewson, Hewson. Now, I will tell you, I didn't grow up as a U2 fan. I was a dancer. I was in entertainment. I was into Michael Jackson. I was born in 1971. Yes, it ages me. I don't care. I'm proud to be over 50. And I will say that I was into Michael Jackson. And it wasn't until my 20s when I started to get into more mature, because I was a dancer. It was in my 20s that I started to get into more rock and, more deep music. And I fell in love with the song One. Now, I knew of U2, didn't really care about them. I was into dance songs. So when I started to mature a little bit and get into rock and stuff like that, and the grunge in the early 90s, I got really into that song One, because it reminded me of a boy I was dating at the time. And when I bought that album, I really got into it. I thought it was a great album at the time. And I remember watching a video. Remember back when MTV actually had videos? Believe it or not, music television, right? And I remember I was watching music to MTV before it became the, trash, television. And it was the video for the song One. And it was the one when he's face to face in a pub.
Yeah.
And he's singing to the camera. And I remember looking at this camera and saying, wow, I know this guy. Wait a minute. And just like, okay, and another thing you have to know about me is I was born psychic. I'm a Pisces, extremely psychic. I was brought up very, very sensitive. And I've been psychic since I was a little girl. So I've been getting downloads all the time, nonstop. Okay. That's why I'm a psychic for a living. That's why I do it for a living. So when I saw this video and I saw this person, it kind of dawned on me about my dreams I used to have. And I said to myself, I think this guy is the guy in my dreams, but he looks a little different. I'm not sure. Then I realized it was the man in my dreams. However, I bought the album, but when I started getting into U2, I started going back and I started listening to all the old U2. And it wasn't until I got I watched the movie Rattle and Hum, okay, because that was 1988. When I watched that movie, there was this one scene when Bono was head on. And I looked at it all of a sudden it was like, when time stands still, and it was like that aha moment, like, oh, and all of the hair stood up in my hair and in the back of my neck. And I realized it. This is the guy from my dreams. I've been dreaming about a man since I was a little girl, about a boy, and it was him. So that's where it all started. Now, growing up psychic, I always went to psychics. Every psychic or medium I went, as soon as I sat down, the first thing they would say was, why is it when I see you, I get Bono? Okay. During my 20s, I was always very close to God, and I always prayed to God. And I suffered because when you're intuitive and you're psychic, you're an open sponge. I suffer from a lot of depression and anxiety because when you're a psychic sponge, you can't turn it off and you absorb everyone's emotions. So I really listened to YouTube music and I really prayed to God. And every time I would go through a tough time, God would use Bono or Bono's music and always kind of push me towards Bono. Like I'd pray and I say I need a sign and I turn on the radio and there'd be a U2 song. Then every time I went to a psychic, they'd bring up Bono. And one of the last things I remember, this floored me, is the last psychic I went to that was really, she was a medium. She was phenomenal. As soon as I sat down, she looked at me and she said, you have a spiritual marriage and a very, very intense spiritual bond with a very famous Irish rock star. And I was like, then I told my husband at the time, okay? And she named all kinds of stuff. Like she knew the name of like the dead cat. She knew things that she would never know. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you got to see her. So my husband made an appointment, didn't know he made it under a different name. She didn't know who it was. As soon as he sat down, he said, your wife has a spiritual marriage, is very spiritually connected to a very famous Irish rock star.
Wow.
And just millions, I can tell you millions and millions of serendipitous things that have pointed me to Bono. When I used to work in Boston. I live south of Boston, Massachusetts. One of the people that I work with, I used to be in the music scene. I used to sing in bands. And one of the guys I used to sing in the band with, his brother was Bono's business partner, Roger McNamee from Elevation Partners. Then I used to take the commuter boat with a bunch of Irish people. And one day it was St. Patrick's Day, and we're at this local bar, and I'm playing U2, and I'm like, oh my God, I love Bono, I love U2. And they're like, we didn't know that. We used to work for them. They worked for Principal Management back in Dublin. There's always like a 6 degrees of separation with Bono. Okay. But the creme de la creme was back in 2004. So after having all these spiritual experiences, God always pointing Bono towards me, having all these psychics and all these weird coincidences, I said, I need to meet this man because I was having these intense dreams like he talked to me, and they were lucid dreams. And he's been coming to me since I was a little girl. Okay. I just didn't know who it was. So I said to myself, you know what? I have to meet this man. I just have to. So at the time, I had friends that were in the UK and they had spent a year in the US and they wanted me to come visit them. And I had a friend who was very much into Adam. I was the Bono girl and she was into Adam. So I decided that I was going to go and visit my friends in the UK. But before that, we were going to go and stop in Dublin. Now, prior to that, I had started there was a YouTube fan page called Interference, and there were a lot of fans that were in the Dublin area that would go and meet the band, and they would tell, you could go online and you could chat with friends. And at the time, the band was in the studio and they were recording How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. So I started talking to fans online, and they said, listen, if you come to the studio, they're in the studio, they'll come out, you'll get to meet all of them. So I went there. Okay, I went there in May 2004. I went there and I waited outside. And unfortunately, when I went there, Bono happened to be away. But I was outside of the studio, and The Edge came out, and Adam came out, and Larry came out. Now I met I met Larry, and I met Edge. I think those were clones, because I have to tell you, when I think back on when I first met them, there was something very cold about them. But when I met Adam, I felt very, very comfortable around Adam. Like, I went right up to Adam and I hugged him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm America, Bono, where's Bono? And he's like, oh, Bono's in America. And I'm like, I'm from America and I came all the way here to meet him. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And something told me I had an envelope, and I had a birthday card, but something told me to put my name and my phone number on the outside of it. And I looked at Adam. I said, Adam, I'm not crazy. I said, can you give this to Bono? And he said, sure, I will. Right? Okay. And I gave him a hug. Okay. All right. So I left. Something told me, I knew it. I said, he's going to get in touch with me. When you just know, I just knew it. Okay. So I fly back. The following Monday, the phone rings. I pick it up. Hello? And who do you think's on the other end? Hello, is this Delphine? Do you know who this is? Well, right then I knew the voice, right? I thought, just like I went to Butter. I was like, I'm like, and he goes, do you know who this is? And I'm like, of course it is. I know your voice is Bono, And he's like, well, Adam told me that you missed me. And I was like, I knew you were going to call me. And he goes, you did? And he goes, yes. And I said, he goes, are you psychic? I go, yeah, I am. And so we started talking. And then he said, well, how would you like it if, I'm sorry that you missed me. And I'm saying to myself, if you think, okay, you should have seen me when I was 20. Okay, this was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, my boobs were up here. I was, woo, okay? Okay, so I'm sure, not tooting my own horn, but I'm sure Adam told me, okay, there was this chick with big boobs that, so of course he's like, yeah, if you want to meet her, all right?
Yeah, he's thinking Lady Double D. I mean.
And I was called Double D Dell in high school, so there you go.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's
all
funny.
right. So
please continue.
Anyway, so anyways, he's like, well, yeah, Adam told me you were a looker. You were a looker. So anyways, he said, I have this weird feeling about you. He said, how would you like it if you came back? And I said, well, I can't afford to come back and I have to work, but that would be nice. And he said, I didn't ask you if you had to pay for it. I asked, would you want to come back? And I was like, you're going to pay for it? He's like, yeah, I want to meet you. I'm like, am I going to say no? So he says, okay. He said, well, and then we talked, and he said, okay, my assistant's going to call you. And then a week later, he flew me first class, and I spent a week with them in the studio in Dublin in 2004.
Okay, so this is 2004. So yeah, because I know when these albums were made, being the fan that I've been. So okay, yeah. Now, were you next to Bono's hat? Because he flew his hat first class somewhere.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
The hat had room, sir. The hat had special privileges over me. Yes. So when I got there, I checked into he treated me to his, I thought it was the real one. Okay. Right. To his credit, first class, flew there, great hotel. I stayed at his hotel, which was, oh my God, what's the hotel? It's the Clarence that he and the Edge owned. Okay. He and the Edge owned. So I stayed at the Clarence, and he called me up, and it was so funny because when he called me up, when he called me at that time, we didn't, I had my cell phone, but he called me at the room, and it was so funny because the manager would be like, I picked up the phone and they're like, you have a very important phone call. They were like, they knew who it was. They could tell the voice, and I picked up, and I'm like, hi. So, I was there. He gave me a lift. I had a driver come, whatever, a taxi come. I went to the studio, and as soon as I walked in, they were all there. And believe it or not, he was in the background. He was very, very arrogant and very smug. Um, I will tell you that I felt the most comfortable around Adam. And I think it's because Adam was the only real one. The rest of them were clones. Because Adam was just so outgoing and just personable. Even though I think he's part of the Cabal and demonic because he was engaged to Naomi Campbell, who's a man. But I digress. We all know that. But when I went,
Thank you for
when I went in,
thank you for
yeah,
stating.
yeah, Naomi Campbell's a man, and he was engaged to her. But anyway, so I remember Edge came up first, and he's like, I remember you because I met you last week. And then, what's his name? Larry came up, and then it was him at the end. And he's like, oh, and then, I hugged them, and then it was Bono, and he's at the back, and he's like, oh, so welcome to Dublin. Nice of you nice of you to come. And so I ran up to him and I gave him a hug. And it was good to meet him. But when I met him, I didn't like him. There was something about him. I didn't like him. He was arrogant. He was cold. He was so full of himself, and he was just so phony. And I'm saying to myself, I'm saying to myself, where's the Bono that wrote the songs? Who is this? But
Right.
at that point, I didn't know. I didn't know. I just felt, okay, well, maybe what happened is that he got cocky because before he was famous, you change. Maybe he let the fame get to his head and he lost his spirituality and now he's a jerk. So whatever. But at that point, I was younger. We're still starstruck, right? No one knew at the time about this. And I'm like, still, this is Bono. Okay. So he's in his asshole phase, but it's still Bono. Okay. But intuitively, I knew there was something off. Okay. So they were recording songs, and I think they were working on Vertigo or a version of Vertigo. And I'm watching it and I'm in awe. Okay, because I'm sitting there, oh my God, I'm in U2 studio with U2. I'm watching, this is a dream. This is a dream. Holy shit, oh my God, oh my God. So it was wonderful. It was great. Did Bono make passes at me? Every moment he could. He was such a pig. Such a
Now,
pig.
so because the general perception in the public is that he and Allie are happily married. But what is we'll get into that. But in that moment, were you thinking, well, this is a little bit weird? Because as a U2 fan, most of us knew who Allie was, his wife.
I have to be honest with you. Even before I found out that Allie is his handler and was born, it was an invert and was his handler.
Of course.
I never ever believed that he was faithful to Allie because, come on, it doesn't matter if you are you were in the most, if you had loved her the most. Okay, it wouldn't matter if he was the most godly, faithful man in the world. You mean to tell me that you're going to date someone from the time that you're 16 years old, and now you're this biggest rock star in the world? You're 28 and you never cheat on your wife? I didn't believe it, and I wanted to believe it, but then as soon as I met him and he started making passes at me, I knew it wasn't true, that he wasn't faithful to her.
Gotcha.
And it happened right away.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that. So please continue.
Yeah. So he made passes at me. He was a pig. I did not partake, if people want to know. Not that it's anyone's business, but something told me, and it's not that it's, and I will be honest with you, it's not that it's because I was married at the time, because I wasn't. It wasn't because that I was in love with my boyfriend at the time, because it was Bono. Okay. It was because something told me at the time, if I slept with him, I would lose my power and I would lose the friendship.
Okay.
And I have to
Wow.
tell you, not sleeping with him was the best thing I ever did. And intuitively, I knew it. It's just that I thought it was for a different reason, but it was really me stopping me from having sex with the demonic clone and getting an attachment.
Ooh.
That's a hell of a thing.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing you're able to finally share this story because I don't know anyone else that really there's a small, whoever's watching the show, there's a very small group of us that are willing to have these kind of conversations, especially, somewhat publicly. I kind of choose where I'm airing this today. I'm just going with YouTube and X and Rumble, because why put this on Facebook, right? I mean, there's, it's just like, what's Joe talking about? So I really applaud that you're able to have this conversation, and thank you guys for being so supportive in the chat. So where do you now? What do you do? What's the next step in this whole Bono story?
Okay, so I was friends with him pretty much off and on for 10 years.
Oh,
Every time, yeah, I mean, he would fly me there I flew to every time he came to Boston. I've gone to probably, I don't know, 30 U2 shows between, I met him when I was 33. And then we had a really falling out when I got married when I turned 40. And my last U2 show was 2009, was the big 360, because we were in a big fight then and he was being an ass. For the better part of 7 years and a little bit after, I had a friendship with him. He called me on the phone. I'd go there. He'd fly me to shows, or whenever he came around New England or Boston, New York, I'd go there. I'd always get backstage. I'd have a great time. You know, I thought it was the real one, and I always knew there was two different Bonos. Now, let me explain. Because I had a spiritual connection with Bono, and I can't explain it. It's almost like we would talk telepathically and in my dreams. But when I would spend time around the clone and I thought it was the real Bono, I just was like, I knew there was a difference. I knew there was two different ones, but I couldn't differentiate at the time because I wasn't awake at the time and I didn't know about clones,
right.
that there was two different ones. But I would always used to say to him, and we would fight. Like I would fight with him all the time, and he would actually get off. He would, the meaner I'd be to him, and the more I'd tell him off, the more turned on he'd get, and he would love it. And yeah, so you know how demonic and sadistic he was. And I remember saying to him all the time, like, where's the Bono who wrote the songs? Who are you? You are not the same Bono. And he laughed and he goes, it's me. It's me. Like, and it's just like, no, it's not, And he'd always have that, that shit eating, the McFisto grin.
Yep.
And I just like, you were just, and I just remember one time that he called me and he was being, I don't know, he didn't like when I got married. And when I got married, I had to put limitations. And even though my husband knew that I was friends with him, I mean, and everyone knew I was friends with him, and no one could really keep him from me, but he didn't like that I got married, and he really started to be egregious. And so we kept on getting in fights. And I think it was the last time I said to him, I said, you know what? I don't care who you are. You're an asshole. And I was just like, I just don't know who you are anymore. Like, I used to think there's two of you. And he was like, oh, you know that there's two of me. And I was just like, whoa, wow, you're a psycho. And I just remember saying to him, it's obvious that you are not in touch with your soul. The old Bono is dead and you've sold out. And at this point, I didn't realize that selling out was really selling out. I just thought that, like you just, you became an ass. You became materialistic. You put your niceness aside and you became this egomaniacal rock star. And now like you're better than everyone and you think you're the cat's meow. So I just thought that he sold out, not in the terms of selling himself to Satan, but in the terms of that he just put his soul aside and stopped being good and just turned into went completely into the the egomaniacal rock star lifestyle. But I slowly realized that I didn't like him, and it was so confusing to me because there was a part of him that loved him, And that was a soul, they had the soulful connection. And he was talking to me every night in my dreams. But then when I would meet the real him, he was an asshole. So it was very confusing to me. So
Wow.
after I turned 40, we talked a few times, but basically he knew that he couldn't have the access to me after I got married, and I just wasn't that enthralled with him anymore. And I began to really dislike him more and more and more. And it wasn't until around 2021 when I've been spiritual and I've been psychic my whole life, but I didn't wake up until 2020, around 2021. And then when I found out about the clones and everything that's going on, and then I started to put two and two together and realize, wait a minute, he's hanging out with the Clintons, with the Bushes, the Obamas, the Red campaign. What is he doing in Africa? He's with all the egregious demonic people. He's with the Democrats. He's with the Clintons, Pelosi. I was like, oh my God, he sold his soul. And then when I started to find out about clones, and then I heard about that Marshall, what's his name? That the clone
Donald,
guy.
Donald Marshall.
Yes, Donald
Yeah.
Marshall. I did a deep dive on him, and he had all these stories about Bono's clone. I lost my mind. I cried for a week. I was so depressed. I was like, oh my God, how can God connect me and have me spiritually linked and use a demonic clone to let me know that he's looking after me? And why would God let me meet this demonic clone? Here I am thinking that I met Bono because we're connected. But I believe that Bono's clone knew who I was, knew I was really connected to the real Bono. And that's why he wanted to meet me. He wanted to meet with me to mess with me. And
Wow.
that's the connection, because we have to understand that clones do have, they have a little bit of the consciousness of the real person.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because when people think of this whole cloning thing, you wonder who's doing the thinking for the clone, who's the consciousness, how is it that this U2 that perhaps may not be, none of them may be U2, that they can get up there and play the music and sound like that. I mean, it's the more you delve in and you learn about the technologies that they have are far more advanced than anything that we can imagine. It's pretty mind-blowing. Like in the case of Donald Marshall, not to get too deep into the story, there's plenty of videos. There's a website, and I'll put that below, Donald Marshall Revolution. And I'm in touch with a few of the people that are part of that and have communicated with them. And Scott and I were actually supposed to interview Donald Marshall about a year and a half ago. And then he backed out. He actually publicized the show. He promoted it, put our logo up and everything. And then he backed out. I'm not exactly sure of the reasons, but he kind of turned into a prick in the emails. And so I guess where I'm going with this is it's really hard to put all these pieces together for most people, I think. So
Yes.
you're helping. I think that you possibly were there to meet this clone so you can share stories like this, because if you just met him in passing or something, or one time, that's one thing, but you actually had a friendship. And one of the questions I had, I think you already answered it, was why, of all the people that he met, why would he pick you to talk with and to tease? I mean, when he could, I guess, almost talk to any lady if he really wanted to, but there was something really connected with you.
It's because I have a very deep spiritual connection with the real Paul, and he is the clone. And so the clone has a little bit of consciousness. So he sensed psychically who I was to Paul, and that's why he called me. You do have to understand that when Paul, okay, so we'll get back to, but as my understanding and my belief that he took off after the Grammys, he went into witness protection. And so when the real Bono took off, they were pissed at him. Okay. And so to get back at him, what's any way to get back at him? They didn't really have any way to get back to him, because when they take people that have been cloned, they take them off planet. Okay, they believe it or not, they do at first because they still have access to their consciousness. And the people that clone these celebrities or these politicians, they can torment them. So I believe that the clone had access to his consciousness and knew who I was to Paul, the real Bono, and that's why he called me, because he wanted to mess with me and mess with the real Paul.
Right. Wow.
That's why he picked me, because of my spiritual connection to the real Paul, which is big. I have a very strong connection with the real Bono, and I don't need to prove it to anyone. I know who I am, and if people don't believe me, I don't care. I'm
Well,
not
it-
here to
you-
convince anyone. I'm here to tell the real story of what happened to Bono.
Right. And I mean, you do tarot cards, you do readings. I mean, your YouTube channel is soul, right? Soul Therapy with Lady D.
Yep.
So what do you think's going on with the current Paul Hewson? I mean, do you still communicate telepathically with Paul?
The real Paul is in witness protection. Okay, so I think he was cloned, but I think the clone is dead. And I think what you saw that was playing Bono back in the sphere, that tried to sing but sounded like a cat being attacked by a coyote.
Wow. Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah.
Awful. I was like, people were sending me and they're like, this isn't Bono, listen to this. And it sounded like a dying cat.
Vegas just said yes, and he was there. We just did an interview, amazing interview with Vegas.
Yes, I watched that, and you were awesome, Vegas 1968. I did. It was a great video, and that's not him. So I believe that they had a clone for him for a while, but we have to understand that clones only last 2 or 3 years. And if they have old DNA on you, right? That say, okay, they took DNA on Bono before he left, right? So just think of like a carbon copy. You have an original, and every time they clone you, every time you make a copy, it gets less and less potent. So I think at a certain amount of time, they had to just stop cloning Bono because they were cloning a decrepit old thing. And then now that we know that the white hats are in charge, they probably killed all the clones, but they still wanted to, they probably still needed to make money or to bring Bono out. So I'm sure that they had an actor. I mean, if you look at some of the pictures of Bono, he almost looks like it was Robin Williams playing him. So I believe that it was a actor playing him on stage, pretending to sing at the Sphere. That's my take.
Wow.
And
wow.
You're thinking you kind of isolated the moment where this switch happened, right? And it was with the release of Octoon Baby, I believe.
From what he tells me, now I talked to him telepathically. When he won the Grammy in 1988, he was around 27, 28. After he won the Grammy, they said that now you have to make a sacrifice, and he was never willing to do that. And so he took off. He went into witness protection. Wow. Right after the Grammys in 1988. What people don't know is that Bono was born in an Illuminati family. His father worked for the post office. His father's uncle was one of the heads he works for the Irish government. His mother, Iris, was killed. She had a aneurysm at the funeral of her father. Okay, what are the chances of that? So Bono's at his grandfather's funeral, and his mother all of a sudden dies of an aneurysm and drops dead. That is cabal. They took out the grandfather and they took out the mother, because if you take out the mother, they insert Allie, who was born an invert, was inverted, born. Look at Allie. Allie was not born female. Sorry, look at Allie. And now that she's older, now you can tell, when women age, you can tell who was inverted. You can tell she's a handler. And it's very easy to manipulate someone when you take away their mother and you insert an handler. Now, the story is that Bono met Allie, and the band U2 formed all in the same week. Another thing that people don't know is that Bono's father, Bob, had an affair with his aunt. Bono's father had an affair with his mother's brother's wife, and he had a baby. So they had a child. So he thought it was his cousin, but it was really his stepbrother. So all of this that's going on screams of a cabal Illuminati family.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing you read about in Rolling Stone.
Right. I
Yeah.
know about my Bono. I've done my research and I met the clone and I know telepathically about him.
Yeah, when did the telepathy start? Because obviously he was communicating with you. I mean, when did that come through? I'm assuming it would be after your time spent with the clone.
It was always, but it really became really prominent after I found out the story of exactly what happened and that Bono was cloned and that that there was a real one. As soon as I realized that the real one was in witness protection, because at first I thought that he sold out and I was pissed at him and I threw out everything I had to do with U2. I mean, I had pictures, autographs, everything. I went mental and cried and I was like, "You're an asshole. You sold out. I can't believe it." So I was depressed. And after I found out that he went into witness protection, and I prayed to God, that's when he really started. And the telepathy really was really strong because I finally knew who I was talking to and I knew the story.
And you could ask questions and get answers, and he spoke to the whole situation, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, and I was trying to find this. I looked for this reading between Tarot by Janine and Tom Numbers. It's been taken down off Tarot by Janine's social media. She said to reach out to Tom. I did. I have not heard back from him. I was hoping it would be in time for this, but because she did a reading, because I've been trying to find any of this information, and
Right.
she did a reading with Tom and said, and she pulled the cards, and that's why I wanted to show you guys. But yeah, he was really the real Bono was very when he had to, you know, either go into hiding or what have you, that he was really struggling with that. He didn't like the deal that he had to make, but she didn't say what it was. So you're now providing the clarity that it was the sacrifice. And I'm wondering your thoughts on this. I heard that that Oprah Winfrey and Bono were down in Australia when Michael Hutchence from In Excess got taken out. So I'm not sure if that was the sacrifice that the Clono had to make, or what's your take on that whole story?
From my understanding, Bono's clone was very instrumental in Michael Hutchins' death, and the clone was very highly involved in the death of who's the singer? Oh my God, I can't think of it now. The singer, the guy that Tony Podesta looks like Tony Podesta.
Park.
Yes,
Yeah.
him.
Chester Bennington.
Yes, him.
Yeah.
Chester Bennington. He was involved with Chester Bennington's death. He helped whoever murdered Chester Bennington. Yes, he was there. Yes.
Wow.
So the clone is a murderer. Yes. That's what really got me. When I found out that, that's when I started doing the deep dive of that. So I lost my mind. I cried for a week and I couldn't believe it. I was devastated. And I was very confused because I was like, why would God have me be, because people, even though I'm a psychic and I'm a tarot reader, people have to no, I'm not a witch. I believe in God and Yeshua. I was brought up Catholic. I talk to God and Yeshua. Tarot cards are just tools, right? They're tools. You can use a knife to stab somebody or a knife to eat your dinner. They're just tools.
Good
So
point.
I always talk to God, and God gives everyone talents. All right. I just use my tarot cards with God. So I couldn't understand why God would have me so connected and use Bono as a way to let God know that he's listening. And why would God always push me towards Bono? So I lost my mind. I'm like, why am I have this connection with somebody that's say demonic? Because I'm certainly not demonic. And as soon as I thought that he sold out, I mean, I went through and I threw away everything, and I thought he sold out. Then I went a couple weeks thinking, well, maybe after watching Donald Marshall, I was like, well, maybe because a lot of the times they trick people in going to all these celebrities and politicians, they trick them into going down to the cloning places, and then they'll take them against their will and tie them down and clone them. So I thought, well, maybe they just took them out and they replaced him, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll kill the real person, or even more disgusting and freakish, they'll keep the celebrity in a suspended state, and they'll keep them kind of in a coma, and they'll use their consciousness for the clone. That's what they did to Britney Spears for many years, and that's why she's insane. And they also did it to Justin Bieber. So that's why these celebrities go insane. So I thought maybe they did that. But it wasn't until my friend sent me that video from Tarot by Janine, and I saw it, and she did a reading, and she said that he went into witness protection. And I watched the video and I said, is this true? And it rang true to me. But at that point, I was so afraid to believe anything. So this is how I knew it was true. And this is what I always do. I say, God, if this video by Tarot by Janine's true, and Paul really isn't satanic, he really went into witness protection because he's good and he didn't want to be a part of the cabal, show me a sign. And let it be so unbelievable that I know it's from you and succinct. Okay. So an hour after that happened, it was like an hour passed. Then I went into my room and I wanted to look at some old photographs. Now, in the interim, I thought that Bono was evil, so I threw away everything I had of his. But I went into this box of photographs and I opened the box, and what was the first thing that I saw? And I'm going to grab you. I'm going to go grab it. I'll be right back, and you'll know that this is my sign from God.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I have a couple pictures and videos here that she shared, and we'll be sharing snippets of those.
It's right
videos.
here.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah.
This was the first thing that I picked up. Is that not a sign?
Wow.
I picked it up, and when all of a sudden, like when you get a message from God, like I felt like the hand of God. Like, you ever had the hand of God moments? There's been a few times with Bono where I got the hand of God moments where I literally felt pressure. I went down on my knees and I cried for an hour. I was crying so much that I had snots on the rug. And I was like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And it was after the day after is when I started the real Bono started saying, see, I'm good. I'm good. Now you know the truth.
Wow.
And he started talking to me.
Wow.
Well, should we show? We have pictures. Sorry, my allergies are going nuts, but we're gonna keep going here. We'll show a couple pictures, and then maybe you can walk people through some of the video clips that you sent me. Does that sound good? Yeah. So first tell us now. I don't necessarily have a side by side, but I'll go back and forth. So this is one of the pictures you sent me compared to, now it's probably from like what, Joshua Tree 87, and this is probably around 2000 something.
Yeah, not the same person. Look at the eyes. Now look at the eyes. Look at the softness of the eyes, and look at angry, mean.
Right. Oh yeah, they're soft and empathy perhaps, and this looks a bit colder.
Look at those. Yeah. The windows are the eyes to what did they? The eyes are the windows to the soul.
Right. Wow. Okay, so
one more time, Joe. I was looking at that. Is there a difference in the jawline near the? Yeah, see the straight jawline.
Yeah,
and then go to the other one. Might just be the angle, but see that dip from the chin?
Yeah.
The chin is more pronounced.
Yeah,
that looks very different, and I don't think your jawline changes other than with weight gain.
You're right. You're right. And the and it's like the face is fundamentally different, and the nose, even though it's a different angle, you can see that the nose is a little different. But you can tilt the eyes, like the eyes are very soft and kind in this one.
Yeah.
And then you look at the second, and the eyes are just, look at that, dead, cold, angry. Doesn't that look like it's like, hi, how are you? To fuck you. You know what I mean?
Huge difference.
That's a good way to put it. So this video is when, let me make sure I got the right one up here. When they accept their first ever Grammy Award. And what are people going to watch for here? Let's set this up for everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, so everyone thinks that he was married to Allie, and he and Allie are in love, and they love each other so much. Allie was his handler. Now, this is just a quick shoot, a quick little couple of seconds video of when they first won their first Grammy. Okay. Now, if you want to see more about how Allie is his handler, watch Rattle and Hum. If you watch Rattle and Hum, Allie's always lurking in the background. She's never really talking to Bono. She's very quiet. She always has she has a dark hat. She's always kind of lurking. And I always thought that was strange when I watch it. I was like, she's kind of weird. But if you watch this video right now, we're going to show you, it shows how much she does not care for him. Now you're going to watch when they say album of the year goes to U2. You're going to watch The Edge bend over and his wife, they immediately kiss. And then watch what happens with Bono and his wife.
Here we go.
The Joshua Tree, U2.
Oh.
See what you did?
One more time. One more time.
The Joshua Tree, U2.
Right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes, does it not?
It does.
It really does.
With
Yeah,
little
she's like,
context,
"Out of
yeah.
here." Okay.
Your husband wins a Grammy. The first thing I do, like, oh my God, you hug and kiss him. And even if she was more concerned about getting out of the aisle, don't you think when he got out of the aisle, she would have hugged and kissed him? But no, he went in to kiss her on live television and she blew him off. How embarrassing.
And that's not the clone. That's the original Bono in that moment.
Yes, that's the original. He went into witness protection shortly after that.
Wow.
Because when you win a Grammy, that means that you need to sacrifice. You don't win a Grammy without you're expected to do something.
No,
Why do you think for the
same?
27th club people die? It's because they have to make a sacrifice before they turn 28. And if they don't,
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely heard that before.
Are the Oscars or Academy Awards similar in that regard?
I think if you win any type of big award, there's a price. Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad I'm not there yet. That's good to know. We'll wait till the new system comes in. Okay.
That's right. That's right. We weren't meant to be singers and musicians in the real system, Joe. Let's wait till after.
So where do we go from here? Is there another clip? There's a few clips up here that
Okay, so that's just to prove about Allie. Now, the other clip I have is just to prove that there's a fundamental difference between the Joshua Tree Bono, who's very kind of humble and loving, and then you get this megalomaniac, this arrogant jerk Bono. So let me look at the clips and I'll let you.
So is the first one with him talking about the satin pants? Is that the one you want me to play?
Yeah, you can talk about. So this one is about, this was shortly before the Joshua Tree. I think this was around Unforgettable Fire. And he's talking about how right. So he's at this festival and he was always talking about how he can't stand like these flashy musicians that wear like flashy pants and, act like the part and have the glasses and everything. And that's exactly what he turned out to be. So anyways, if you want to roll the clip.
What a hell of a foreshadow. Okay. It's almost like they took this or like, okay, let's make it everything opposite. So here we go. I'm going to pull this clip up as well. And this is, hopefully this is the right one. Oh, no, it's not that one. This one. Here we go. Okay.
Where the missing person's from? Are they the American band?
She's American. This is Vicky McCarty from the. Start again. This is Vicky McCarty for the Westwood One Satellite Network. I'm backstage with Bono Vox from U2.
Could I just correct you there?
Yeah, I wish you would.
In fact, I would.
Let's start all over.
No, I would enjoy the opportunity to explain to the nation, not just to yourself, that this Bono Vox thing has got a bit out of hand. My full name is Paul David Hewson. People call me Bono. It's a term of affection, and that's what I'm proud to be called it. Bono is fine. But Bono Vox, I don't know where that came from. And it's a bit of a mistake. So I thank you for the opportunity
So it's
to
Paul
explain to these people that people call me Bono. Okay?
Should I call you Paul or Bono?
Let's
try Paul.
Call me Bono.
The show that we just saw, I was on stage watching it, and then I came back here and got an even better angle. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. You, first of all, braved the crowd. What made you decide to go out and start touching the crowd?
Oh, come on, they are what's important in this festival. You know, backstage we have this, thing where we're hidden. You know, we're the hidden people. We're behind stage. But they're the people. We're paying our wages, your wages, my wages. And they're the people that are important. You know, I was part of a movement which believed, maybe naively so, in breaking down the barrier between the stage and the audience. Breaking it down. I'm sick and tired of satin pants. I'm sick and tired of people hiding behind their haircuts. Music is about communication, okay? Talk to John Lennon about that. I bumped into his statue on stage. Did you see that?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about
I
that.
just walked out on stage and there was this bronze statue of John Lennon.
So I think that, and you guys, we're going to put all these clips below so you can dig into them, because some of them are longer and some have some subtitles, or have subtitles, some don't. The next clip, Lady D is going to kind of walk us through because it's so quiet and there's no subtitles. So talk to us about this clip, Lady D, please.
Okay, so this was after the Joshua Tree. This is when Bono went into witness protection, okay? And so if you notice, there was about 3 or 4 years where you didn't really see Bono that much. You saw them here and there, but they cloned him, okay? And so after the Joshua Tree, then there was Actung Baby. And this is where they introduced the clone for the first time. Now, there is a humongous difference between Joshua Tree 1987-88, or maybe 88 Bono, and then they brought out Actung Baby Bono. Huge difference. You went from demure, kind, soft eyes, kind of humble, to this dark-haired, bug-eyed, megalomaniac, arrogant guy. Now he's talking about satin pants, and he talked about shiny trousers, and I don't want to be one of those. And then he becomes this. So this is the first video back when MTV played videos. Remember, they had Kurt Loder would interview people. So this was U2's debut of Actung Baby, and they had this special debut behind the scenes at the Zoo TV tour. And this is Bono coming out, the clone, for the first time, talking with Kurt Loder.
Okay, so I'm going to play this, and then I might stop it in sections so you can kind of catch us up on exactly what's being said. And feel free to tell me to go back or forth. I think I'm in the right spot, but here, bear with us, guys. Here we go.
Okay. The audio is low, so I'll tell you what they're saying.
Okay, perfect. This is, here we go.
Last time we saw you, you were a normal guy. You know, you wore
Oh, wait.
clothes, compromise our music.
Okay, so it starts off, last time I saw you, you were a normal guy. That's what Kurt Loder's about to say.
Okay, yeah, you can start here, and he's pretty much, you can see he's pretty arrogant right here. This is the clone.
Here we go.
And that might be hard for you to accept, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. And if we didn't enjoy this, we're going home.
Okay, we can pause it right there.
Okay.
So you could say right there, did you hear the difference in the voice? How there's less of a brogue? And Kurt Loder said, so why is it you changed your music? Are you being forced to? And he's like, we don't do anything that we're not forced to. If we don't like it, you know, you could already see he's saying, if we don't like it, we don't do it. And I know it's hard for you to believe, but we don't do anything we don't want to. Kind of forcing and making people try to believe that this is what they want to do. Okay, now here we go.
You have something on your jacket here.
Something on his chest.
Oh, it's a spangle. It's a spangle.
Zoo beer.
You know, last time we saw you, you were a normal guy. You know, you wore normal clothes and stuff. Now you got the suits, you got the fly boots, you got the I don't know, the fly goggles. I think that's a dye job.
Okay, you can pause it.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
So I don't know if you heard Kurt Loder said, So what's going on? Last time I saw you were a normal guy. You had normal hair. You had, you didn't have the glasses. And he goes, now he's like, now you got all this flashy, the boots, you have a dye job, the glasses. What's going on? What's going on? What are you trying to hide? What's changed? Okay.
What's going on?
Well, Ronald Reagan's one of my biggest influences, as you know, and I wanted that kind of Reagan blue, and it's important. Yeah.
Important in what way?
It's important to please you. It's important to please you. You didn't like me when I was me, so I found somebody new.
You're not hiding.
Okay, pause it, please.
Yeah.
So right there, and then he said, "What's the deal?" And he said, "Oh, because this Ronald Reagan was president." And he goes, "Well, Ronald Reagan's my influence. I always liked that Ronald Blue." And he goes, "Well, it's important. It's important to do." And so Kurt Loder goes, "Important what?" He goes, "To please you." And then Bono says, "You didn't like me when I was me, so I found someone new."
I mean, I'm so glad you have these clips. Let me keep going on next. Okay.
And you love him.
And you love him.
Yeah.
Old Blue Eyes is back.
So then
Nice
Kurt
to-
Loder says, "What are you hiding behind there?" And he opens up his, he moves his glasses and he says, "Oh, Blue Eyes is back." But even though his eyes are blue, you can tell those aren't his eyes. But right then and there, he says it. Kurt says, "What's wrong? You were a normal guy last time I saw you. You talked normal, you wore normal clothes, you were approachable. Now you have your hair, you're flashy." And Bono says, "Well, it's important to please you. You didn't like me when I was me, so I found someone new and you love him."
Wow. Any more on this video we need to see?
No, pretty much you can keep on. I mean, you can see how different he is. Can you see the attitude and the fundamental difference in the attitude and the way he speaks and just the whole persona of the old and the new?
Yeah,
It's
Scott,
just such
go
a
ahead.
difference.
I want to hear Scott's take on this.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
You can see in the earlier interviews just how humble and human and approachable and there was a kindness there, and it's just completely absent. Now, this is when I went from being, like a rabid fan to I can't get into it anymore. I remember that pretty distinctly. But, I didn't know why.
Right,
And
right.
I hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, this is cool. He's, calling George Bush. And I even like the Pop Mart tour. I saw it down in Eugene. And I guess there's certain things that I just went to go see Snow Patrol the other night, or at least who I thought was Snow Patrol. And they were great. A lot of beautiful touches of story in between the songs. But what really, hooked me on the U2 show in '97 down in Eugene was how Bono talked how green Eugene was and how it reminded him of Ireland. And I was just like, that's so cool, because I'd never been to Ireland at the time. And so I didn't see any of this stuff. I just went along hook, line, and sinker with the story that was U2.
Me too. I didn't know any better. You have to remember that I wasn't even really a fan of old U2. I'm a late bloomer. And then when it wasn't until Act Pong Baby that I really liked them. And then I went back and I became a fan and I fell in love with the old U2. I saw all the shows and I went to all the new shows and I thought it was cool too, that I thought he was just, that he dressed up like Mephisto. We have to get into that, and how he was calling Reagan, calling the president. I thought it was cool. I just thought he was being like a badass version of himself and he was just trying to be different. I bought it hook, line, and sinker too. I didn't realize what it was until recently. So I'm with you.
Right.
Well, I think we figured it out last night. I mean, when War came out, we were about 11 years old and very impressionable. And I know that, I wore that cassette out, probably several. And I remember my sister's friend who was older and beautiful, and she invited me. She had an extra ticket to go to U2 at Red Rocks. And, what a dream come true. My parents wouldn't let me go. And I never got over it. I'm still a little pissed.
He didn't go. He didn't go.
No, I couldn't go. Yeah. because my
Look at
parents
that.
would
That's
have
one of the best videos. I mean, they did a whole
Oh yeah,
Red Rocks, Under a Blood Red Sky. That's one of their best concert videos. Yes.
I've seen it 100 times, I'm sure, or more. Yeah, no, I mean, I was really, it was so touching. It was amazing. I don't think anyone had ever heard music like that. It was really, it changed the scene in a big way. And then, when it became so showy, I remember it was also Kurt Loder. I think it was whichever tour where he came out with like I don't know if the hat lit up or it was just sequined, but it was this obnoxious cowboy hat. And I think there was sort of a fur coat and whatnot. Yeah. And it was like, what the hell is this? You know, I mean, it was complete. It was such a departure. And I don't know, that's when I kind of lost it. Yeah. I remember having that conversation with Joe too, when we were, you know, just talking about you too. And that's when I felt a real decline. And he's like, you should really listen more to those albums, you know, because there's good stuff. And I did, and it is good stuff, but it just didn't have the same character, the same magic.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's very techno. It was techno and it's nice to listen to, but it didn't have the depth as the old U2 for sure. Yeah.
And now we know a bit more why, I suppose. Yeah. You know, and I think the thing is, a lot of bands, they look to these bands like U2 and REM, you know, so many of these bands, whether it's, you know, the Ramones, Zeppelin, you know, these four, I think all of them are, well, I can't remember the Ramones are 4 or 5 piece, but a 4-piece band, and they're out living the dream. They're doing what they love. And I mean, for me, the whole thing with entertainment was, I mean, I'll admit it, my first, you know, thinking about getting involved in the arts was watching John Ritter, you know, as Jack Tripper. I mean, this guy could be an absolute klutz, ridiculous. He was around a couple hot ladies. I know he had to play, you know, that you know, for Mr. Roper and Furley, that he was, you know, gay or whatever. But he got to be this like quirky guy and get paid for it. And I'm like, well, that's incredible. That sounds pretty fun. And then I found more of a love for music after that. And I'm like, wow, that would be, you can get deep and actually say things and make a difference in the world. And so it's this kind of combination that was my motivation for getting into the arts. But anyway, but yeah, so that's why it's just been when one of the people that you think is what they are motivates you to do the things that you do in your life. It's weird. It's like I've taken the part of how Bono influenced me and trying to make that part, you know, I guess that part real. Like Scott and I are doing an event this weekend and trying to make a difference with the show. And I think it's that altruistic part that I thought Bono was actually doing that's been a motivator for you know, me to do this personally, you know, and then hearing about children getting trafficked. So it's just really weird to think that these people you looked up to were actually doing a lot more, just having this conversation for people than they were, because there was a lie and manipulation. So it's really a mind fuck to do this stuff at times.
Well, do you remember Live Aid? They were really a prominent feature of Live Aid. And I remember watching all day long with my sister. We watched Live Aid, and that turned out to be an absolute disaster. The food that was purchased was placed out on these docks or whatever, and they gunned down all the people as they came to get the food. It was absolute tragedy. A lot of that money never made it to the people at all, you know, like so many charities and events in reality. But I believe that was after or right about the time they did Rattle and Hum.
Live Aid was 85.
I think it was before.
Okay.
His performance at Live Aid when he did Bad, that really catapulted them to superstardom. That was big. Yeah, when he took the woman on stage, yeah. That put him on the map.
But I'm wondering, Geldof, I think, was the organizer for that event. Geldof,
completely demonic.
Yeah, into some really dark shit. And I wonder if that was the first exposure for U2, because it wasn't until then that you got to know all these political figures and, you know, got involved in you know, world issues like they did following Live Aid, or during and after.
For sure.
But because it was so corrupt, I wonder if that marks the corruption of U2 as well.
I think that most of the people, most of the acts that were part of Live Aid really thought that they were doing well. I don't think that they knew the nefarious deeds of Geldof and the promoters and people behind the scenes, as well as I don't even think that the organizers, I think that maybe they thought they were doing a good thing, but unfortunately, there's a lot of corrupt leaders in Af Africa,
Oh
and
yeah.
a lot of the aid that we've got over there never goes to the people. So I don't think that you two and the people that were part of the Live Aid, the artists, I don't think that they were corrupt then. I really think that, like as we all did, they thought they were doing the right thing. I think then the corruption was really at the top and was hidden back then.
Right. Well, and think of the grooming. Think of it's almost like you groom the fans to think, okay, they're U2's doing these events and they're positive and they're pro humanity, and so then later on when we're watching him hanging out with Bush and Clinton's or whatever, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, well that's you know, U2's done these things, but really it's just like watching these Disney kids. You know, they're first the daughters, some sons, I suppose, are watching the Taylor Swifts and Britney, and Miley Cyrus, and then you know a couple years later, it's like, well, wait a second, now they're doing all these sexy things, and
Mhm.
and they just bring the children right along with them like a Pied Piper. So it's, I mean, once you start seeing it, you can, it's pattern recognition, but you know, a lot of people
Right.
will just go along with it because they just think it's the person doing whatever it is the person does.
Right. And if you think about, and we talked about this during our conversation, Joe, Bono and you two were really the first ones to, like, Bono was the first one to dress up as Satan, okay? And we didn't know it back then. They were the first one to do drag, remember on the cover of Actung Baby? And,
Yep.
and during the video, and oh, back when you used to buy CDs and remember the artwork, they were all dressed in drag.
Yep.
Now that's part of the cabal, that you know, we know that the drag and there was actually Adam Clayton was actually nude on the cover. Remember, there's one part, if you, I sent you a picture of Actung Baby, and on the back of it Adam's willy's hanging out. So they did the humiliation ritual and the satanic dressed up as Satan thing, and you two and Bono were one of the first to do it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And getting back to Bob Geldof and Michael Hutchins, I believe that Paula Yates was married to Bob Geldof maybe first and then Michael Hutchins. So that's interesting as well, right? That's a hell of a connection.
Well, Peaches.
Bob, yes. So Peaches was the daughter, and Paula Yates was originally married to Bob Geldof, and she started having an affair with Michael Hutchins and left him. And Bob Geldof never got over that. And Bob Geldof actually had Michael Hutchins killed. It was Bob Geldof that did it.
Jeez.
And
Wow.
he had the help of Clone Bono.
I mean,
And it was autoerotic asphyxiation, which was new to folks at the time, I think. It's sort of a humiliation ritual in and of itself.
There
Right.
you go, Scott. Bing, bing, bing. You got it.
Wow.
And it was
Okay.
all because Bob Geldof hated him because of the whole Paula Yates thing.
Right. See, that makes sense. We're just, I think the cool thing is being able to tie in the different backgrounds and knowledge. I think it's knowledge that we have of the last, you know, 30 years or so of music and tie these pieces together. Because we're, you know, some of these topics that we're bringing up, it's just the orchestration of an organic conversation. It's like, oh yeah, what about this? And it's so cool to be able to do this, Lady D. I what an honor to share your story.
It's an honor to share it with you guys. I've had a YouTube channel. I've been on Instagram for a while now, and you know, when I first started my channel, I did a little show on this, but I don't really, my regular viewers know about me and my clients, and they know my situation, my Bono, and I call him Paul. But I really don't like brag about it, or I don't make it, you know, I don't do shows about it. I don't put it on the forefront because I don't want to be known, and I don't want people to think, oh, you know, I'm so wonderful because I have this connection with Bono. That's not why I do it. I don't want to tell my story, and I haven't really told my story because I don't want to, I don't know, benefit from it or commercialize it. I'm telling my story now because disclosure's coming and the real Paul is going to be coming out soon. And I think it's time that everyone knows the story. And there's many people that are truthers and spiritual like you and I that love U2 because U2 was such a spiritual band. And people like you and I'm a singer. I idolized Bono. I wanted to be him. I wanted to be a female Bono. I wanted to sing. I still want to sing. I still sing. And I think it's people like us that were really heartbroken because we saw this beautiful young man singing Gloria, singing Gloria A2 Domine, talking about God and being this beautiful man. And then all of a sudden turning to the complete opposite of what he used to be. So I want to do this because I think people need to know the truth. And because the real Paul's coming out of hiding soon, and he's very, very reticent and very nervous about being in the public eye after not being in the public eye in the last 40 years. And just think how you would feel if you were cloned and you saw someone steer your life and doing all these nefarious things.
Right.
Wow. Well, so if he was in protection, presumably that's government protection, which I don't know how to wrap my head around on how all this works, but so he's been under threat from the cabal, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he took off. He wasn't supposed to take off.
And if they got a hold of him, they'd kill him or worse, I imagine. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I sent a picture from Vegas of Michael Jackson and his clone. So a lot of newscasters, they're not getting information while they're doing the show. So that's a little different at Truth Stream.
That's an interesting comment.
What's that?
That's an interesting comment I just put up there, that Trump was playing Gloria during the rallies.
Was he? Ooh, very interesting.
Wait, is that U2's Gloria or the other Gloria, the female singing Gloria? Is that which Gloria are we talking about?
I'm talking about. I know. Yeah, is she talking about the Laura Branigan song?
Yeah. Well, so because there's two Glorias, so I'm not sure.
There is.
Gloria's cloned as well. So I'm gonna. First of all, here's Actung Baby.
Now, okay, here we go. Look at first of all, okay, look at there's the star, there's the demonic star. Okay. Look at the calf, that's the bull.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Okay, the snake, the serpent.
Yeah.
On the left.
Yeah.
Okay. Now look at above the calf, that's all them. Now if you look, they're all Bono has makeup on, and there's Adam dressed in drag behind him.
Wow.
All right. Now, in the inside cover, you can't see it, but there's a nude picture of Adam and his willies hanging out, but you can't see it. It's in the. But see how all the cabal symbolism. Now if you look at the edges pants, the top row, the second one in with the blue. There's the pentagram there.
Oh. Man, I never looked at. I just thought it was cool images. Holy shit!
I know, me too. But now that like you go back, I thought it was cool too. I didn't think anything of it. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. But now that we know what we know, and you look back, you see all the imagery.
Album covers in the last few years because I'll still sometimes I'll put on YouTube, but I have to be like, okay, I'm going to listen to it, the old version of me before I was awake, and just enjoy like the layers that we have to go through in all this is just.
I know. I know.
Okay. And then Vegas, I'm going to show, this is Michael Jackson with Michael Jackson's clone, apparently, from our dear friend Vegas. You guys got to see the interview we did with Vegas. I'll put that underneath too. Michael and his clone. Thank you, Vegas. Wow.
Wow.
Well, remember,
now you know why he kept on getting plastic surgery, because he didn't want to be replaced by his clone.
Well, I remember Dave, the burn victim that had exactly the same voice as Michael Jackson and the same mannerisms and everything. And, you know, whether that was prosthetic or what, who knows, but
Wow.
pretty interesting
I
stuff.
think it was really him. I think Michael Jackson's still alive, and that was really him.
I'm inclined to believe you.
How do you see Paul coming out? I mean, hey, you know what? I'm just going to say it. If Paul wants to come on the show with you and have a conversation, he's more than welcome.
Yeah, we'd love to host that one.
I would figure that. I figured that. I'll have him on my channel first, and then you guys will be the second. I promise. Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll fly out and do it in person.
There you go. We can do a big extravaganza show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell people what's in the works right now, because I think it's good for people. It's part of the manifestation, and it's part of, you know, what we're doing. And because, you know, when I went to go meet Dr. David Martin in person last year, I'm just like, well, are his messages getting out to humanity? And they are. But if there's a 2-hour interview and there's a 3-minute clip, well, there's no one that's been getting those clips. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, be the difference that you see in the world, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I can do that for David. So I've been doing that for David Martin's clips. And I did a clip. It was about a 30-minute clip, or 30-minute full video, because that wasn't on X. And I posted that, I think, a few weeks ago. Well, last night, Scott was next to me. Rob Schneider, the comedian, retweeted David Martin's post. So I called Rob Schneider's management today, and we already have a show set up for April 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific with Dr. David Martin and Mark from News Treason. So we've invited Rob Schneider onto the show to meet David Martin. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but maybe say a prayer for us that it does. Because can you imagine those two amazing gentlemen that have been out there, one with humor? And well, David does have a great sense of humor, actually. But with, you know, David talks about the 12 senses that we have instead of 5. So I've booked bands. I love doing it. If part of my, you know, networking and booking is putting those two guys together, I'm honored to do it for humanity. And you know, it's great. Scott's just like, you know, Scott and I have the freedom to book the shows we want. Like we don't go through each other, but it's cool when something happens in real time. I'm like, Scott, check this out.
Well, it's really cool. Yeah, when Joe and I were working at the Montage, it's a $500 million resort in Park City, and you know, we saw a lot of celebrities and you know, took care of a lot of celebrities. My favorite was always Rob Schneider. He and his wife were just awesome. They were just the sweetest people, so real, so cool. Because a lot of the celebrities are not at all cool, and yeah, he just made such an impression on me and his wife. They have such a cute family, so I've always had a soft spot for Rob Schneider.
I'm really excited for you because I know that Rob Schneider is a patriot, and he's been canceled because he's pro-Trump and he's going against Hollywood. So I'm very, very excited. This is awesome. And I see he's going to come on, and I see big, big things for you too. Not you too, the band, you too.
I was waiting. I telepathically knew you were going to have to make that correction. Yeah, well, it's you know, because a lot of people, it's hard to find their contact info. But I looked up Rob Schneider, and it said, sure enough, his contact info, and it had his you know, the management email. Well, there's a phone number, and I'm like, you know, my mom always told me go to the top, reach the first. And so I called, and this lady answered, and she ended up giving me her email specifically because I told her the story instead of just the normal management email. So that didn't hurt. And I made sure that Rob didn't have a comedy show that night, which he doesn't. So, you know, there's a lot of little nuances you have to look at to make sure that that you're asking something that, you know, is possible. And I'm not going to ask him to cancel a gig, for fuck's sakes. But anyway, so we just love sharing stuff with our audience when, you know, so they're part of the journey, because you guys are part of the journey. So, you know, we just want to let you know that. Is there anything that we haven't said that we're missing, or that you want to end with, or what? The floor is yours, Lady D. So please.
I think we covered everything as to, how clones are formed. I mean, they're so different. There's a bunch of different ways. In terms of Bono, Paul, they did take a little bit of his blood and DNA when he was younger. And then after he went into witness protection, they just need a little bit of DNA, and that's how they create clones. And like I said, the best thing is to get fresh DNA, but they only, if they take DNA from somebody and they don't have fresh DNA, so it's like every time they create a clone that only lasts a few years, the clone is less and less potent. It's like a Xerox, like the original, and if you keep on copying an original, it gets less and less clear and it's less and less viable. So that is basically, now as to the consciousness of what the consciousness is with Bono, I firmly believe that what they did with clone Bono is that everyone has heard about Vril and the Vril Society. So when they have a clone and they do not have access to the consciousness of the celebrity or the VIP, what they'll do is they'll take the clone and they'll Vril them. Now, everyone knows what a Vril lizard is, right? A Vril lizard is one of those small amphibians. And what they do is they'll hold down the clone, or they'll hold down the celebrity. This is how they take over the consciousness and kill the celebrity. They'll hold down the clone or the celebrity, and this thing it's called a Vril. It's about a 3-foot high kind of amphibian monster like lizard thing, and it has an optical nerve and has it like a little
proboscis.
Thank you. And it goes into the optical nerve. It ties around the optical nerve. And what happens is that they take over the consciousness. It kills the person, and then they go in and they get the consciousness and they take over the consciousness. That is part of why you see a lot of people, the Black Eye Club or the Vril Society. Those are when they don't have consciousness, if they don't have access to the consciousness of the celebrity or the VIP, that's what they do. And I believe that's what they did with clone Bono, because when I tell you, being around that clone, how disgusting and piggish and perverted and grotesque clone Bono was, I can't even tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, and think of the, the girls. I'm sure this is going to get out to some U2 fans, and they're going to, first of all, it's going to wreck their minds. But the girls that dance on the stage with Bono, like that's not really who they think it is. But I want to bring this website up because this is called Donald Marshall Revolution. I'll share the screen, and if people really want to deep dive into this, it has all kinds of information on here. So let me make sure. Can you see that now? Is that up? Okay.
Yes.
So if you go to, I don't know why this thing's in the way here. I kind of need to get to the tab that I had open. Thank you very little. So if you go to this, you can do a deep dive on at the very top. Okay. So it's about Donald Marshall, the awakening story. Rock Me On. There's a lot of this talks about all the songs that he's done. He basically claims to have written Lady for Kenny Rogers and Lionel Richie when he was 5. Basically, his consciousness was transferred into a clone version of himself at 5, and he was screaming and crying because he didn't like being down there, obviously. And they said, well, do you do something? And he basically said that he was able to use this incredible technology. He doesn't write the songs per se, but he's able to think, and he's like telepathically creating songs with the technology that they have down there. So that's the quick version. So there's the cloning, the secret of the Vril, microchip heads, the Illuminati. It's all on this website, donaldmarshallrevolution.com, if you guys are interested in digging into that. So I just wanted to share that with people because these topics are pretty crazy for some people to hear. And there's a book as well that in fact I might it's right, it's not too far from me, but I'll bring that up. But it goes into this, and there's a picture on it. Scott, talk about something. I'll be right back. I just want to grab this book.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to show you this. I can't share it to the screen, but that's an interesting image. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Totally
the title is
demonic.
are Bono's black eyes a sign of a midlife crisis? And I swear I've seen a picture of him with the black eye. That's part of the Black Eye Club, but it didn't show up in a Google search. This, though, however, did. And we all know what that's about.
Yep. There's a lot of those. There's a picture
Well, a
he
whole
and his
lot,
wife
yeah.
with the Black Eye Club. But yeah, there's a
You've
lot
seen it
of
too?
yeah.
You've seen it?
He has
Yeah.
pictures of he's going like this too. He's doing. I hope people don't take a screenshot of me doing that, but he's doing all the symbols, the Illuminati
Right.
symbols. You're
Yeah.
right, Scott. Absolutely.
So yeah, here's the book. Now, this book was, then there's a part 2, and it was #1 on Amazon in like amphibious creatures or something along the lines like that. So that is the ceremony right there of that person's in a chair, and what's about to jump out is one of the vril, and it's going to, they're all tied up, and then the proboscis is going to be inserted into this person's eye. But this is, the exposing the Illuminati's REM sleep-driven human cloning subculture, the subterranean underground troglodytes, the Vril, full disclosure, part 1, Donald Marshall. So part 2 is now out. But yeah, I mean, this is on Amazon. It's paperback. I think it's free. I'll put the links below. Boy, I have a lot of links to put below this video. But the PDF is free. You can just read it. And I don't know, man. It's a hell of a rabbit hole, but there's some clarity for people, I think.
It is. I mean, we're living in our reality is more dark and demonic and crazy than a science fiction movie, and it's our reality.
Oh yeah. I think that's all about to change, though, isn't it?
Yeah. People are going to find out the truth. I mean, with Diddy and Epstein, the whole music industry, people are going to realize that, I mean, look, they're all clones now. And now, at least back in, the early 2000s and all that, they hit it. But now the music industry, and Hollywood is so blatant. Everything is so demonic and satanic. Everything's a ritual. So I think it will shock a lot of people, but I do think that a lot of people won't be shocked because it's so blatant now. It's in everyone's faces.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a lot to do with the decline of Disney. I mean, they are just hemorrhaging money left and right. The Snow White movie is probably the last final nail in the coffin. Maybe, who knows? It's a devastating loss. I mean, they had to reshoot, so they spent over $500 million on that movie, and I mean, it is just getting panned so hard by even Rotten Tomatoes panned it, and they're on the payroll. So. But when you look at the Disney kids and where they are today, I mean, Britney Spears is probably the best example, but Ariana Grande, if you've seen her lately, she looks like they hung a bunch of skin over a skeleton, and it's like she's going the way of Celine Dion or something. It's pretty tragic. They obviously don't seem happy at all. They seem nuts. I haven't seen Miley Cyrus in a while, but boy, was she going off the deep end there for a while.
Well, they say that Celine Dion has some kind of weird disease, but that's what happens when you don't get your adrenochrome anymore.
Right.
I've heard that. Yeah.
When you are used to drinking adrenochrome and you don't have it on a regular basis. And this is another thing I always used to think it was weird about Bono. Every time you saw him, he looked like he aged 10 years in 2 years. And that's because when these people don't get their adrenochrome, because it's an anti-aging, if you don't get it, you age exponentially. That means you age quicker. So that's why Celine Dion, she doesn't have a disease. She doesn't have some kind of bone or whatever, strict bone disease. She's a decrepit demon who is sick and she should die because she hasn't get her adrenochrome. That's what's happening with Celine Dion. The same with all these celebrities that have MS. They don't have MS. They're not getting their chrome. And that's what happens when they don't get their chrome. And good, let them suffer.
There you go. Wow. Wow. Well, I want to let folks know Scott and I are doing a show tomorrow. It's just going to be the two of us, and we're going to be doing we start our silent auction tomorrow night because we're doing a live event in Washington State. If anyone's in the Northwest, if you're in driving distance, it's in Eatonville. It's at the Millhouse Cider Company in Eatonville, Washington, from 3 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, March 29th. We're going to have an in-person silent auction and an online silent auction, and people can. We've had amazing donations from our friends, and it's to support TruthStream because we have been doing this, and we didn't realize how much work this was going to take. It's like a full-time job, and we want to get some lighting, and we want to be able to do other things, like go places and put gas in our car, and things like that. And our channel it's interesting just to watch. There's a couple hundred viewers at times, and we watch other shows that have the same amount of viewers, and there's thousands of people watching. So my point is, you guys, if you like the content, please share it because it gets the algorithm up there. It goes out. Sometimes you have to resubscribe because, people unfollow us without knowing it. It's not that they do it, but it happens. And then, and especially on Rumble, but on X, you can put posts below or, comments below, but the chat disappears on Rumble. And it's unfortunate because there's so many great conversations that go on there. But if you have something you really want other people to know, or a link that's relevant, put it in the actual comments, because then other people can see it and that lives on, whereas the chat disappears. Anything I'm missing, Scott?
Well, yeah, Joe, with regard to the auction, we've had some sponsors that are really, they've really been quite generous. And so there's some really great items. I don't know if you want to mention a few of them and where people might see the full list. I don't know if we figured that one out yet, but it's going to involve an app where you do the bidding, and we're going to post all the information. We'll be talking about it on tomorrow's Chill Show.
Yes.
From Eatonville. It's going to be a fun night, and so we'll have more details then. But do you want to give people a sneak peek?
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything pulled up, but yeah, it's called Zeffy, ZEFFY.com. And when we make the link, it'll take you right there. But there's going to be healing sessions from Lisa Schermerhorn, Honey C. Golden, Jonah Bolt from Quantum Healing is donating some methylene blue and some
CBD oil as well.
Yeah. And then Brooke and Janelle, they're donating a lot of, there's jewelry and I think, I don't know if it's massages. I have to look at more of the details. But some of these will be online and some of them will be in person. So because we want people to be able to bid that can't make the event, but we're really excited. This keeps pulling things out of us that we didn't know we'd be doing. I mean, Scott and I finally figured out the app last night that we're going to be using, because there was a lot of them. And you're like, well, that's if you want to bid on something. We need to actually be the ones that are putting the items in. So if anyone is interested in doing an auction for themselves down the road, Zeffy.com is one. And if anyone wants to donate something to us, that's just, that you can email us, you're welcome to put that in the comments, because, of course we want to help get other folks items out there. If it's something they don't have to mail, because
now we've got, for the folks that are going to be there in person, we have physical items that are going to be there, and we have duplicates of those on the online auction, most of them. All the services and whatnot are kind of, it's a little difficult to deal with that in the in-person auction. So those are going to be kind of reserved for the online auction. But Alicia Main has offered her services as far as animal communication and so on, and healing. She's really amazing. And then Sorona is putting together a couple of really nice gift baskets.
They do anti-aging without adrenochrome. It's glutathione based, actually, quantum or nanotechnology with B12 and D3. But
Seronochrome.
Yes, Seronochrome.
No, it's great stuff. I think you'll be excited about this products. I know we are for sure.
Can I don't? I would like And I like to donate. Put me up, and I like to donate an hour reading with me.
Oh
Well,
my God.
I'd like to bid on that. That sounds fantastic.
Okay.
I'm not
and then
going to
you
bid, but yeah,
but do an hour reading with me.
fantastic.
And
Well,
yeah,
thank you.
just do an hour reading. It's worth
Okay.
$111. Yeah, then you get a psychic reading, whatever they bid, and all they have to do is I'll give you my email. They get in touch with my assistant. So I just
Okay.
try to.
Yeah,
I didn't want to interrupt you. I went like this, but you kept on talking, so I want to
Yeah.
donate because I really love you guys. I really love your show, and
oh,
we're all part
thanks.
of the community. You know, there's in our community there's been a lot of backbiting and nastiness, and I don't like this. We're all part of the same community. It's not about who, subscribers and who's more popular. It's all about that we're here for a reason. We have channels for a reason, and we need to support each other. So anything I can do to support and help you guys, you just let me know.
No,
exactly. And that's where people can find you right there, right? We take our comment, we put it up. There's your website. That's so cool. It helps so I don't have to type it in. So thank you, Chrissy. USA.
Yeah, Chrissy's one of my moderators. So yes, Chrissy's my soul peep, and a lot of my moderators are here, my regulars.
Well, look at all the
I
love.
love them.
See, this is how it should be. Like we lock arms with each other, and there's synergy, and we help each other. That's what's so challenging sometimes with other shows. It's like they won't even like. I'll tag people, and I don't even get a like. I'm like, we're putting this out there for everybody. Like, let's lock arms. So thank you for having like a sisterly type of vibe with Truth Stream, because that's why we do it. We don't just do this to just do this for Truth Stream. And we're in this for community and unity. And I mean, that's where my songwriting comes from. In fact, we're going to end with a song that I wrote a few years back called Freedom Now. And Scott actually concepted part of it and had his feeder in it. And we shot this with Nick Alvear. And I redid it last year to include, unfortunately, now I know, are photos of Bono's clone. So real quick, where can people find you, Lady D? Just so they know exactly where to look.
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram. I have about 15,000 people on Instagram. I have a small following on X, but if you really want to catch me and catch my shows, I'm on YouTube. And it's at Soul Therapy Lady D, at Soul Therapy Lady D on YouTube. My website is www.soultherapylady.com. You can find me, it's the same, Soul Therapy Lady D on Instagram, on X, on YouTube. I do have a Rumble channel, but I don't know how to work Rumble. To me, it's not very intuitive. So I just use it to watch shows. I don't post. I'm going to start doing more of the multi-platform, but that's basically where you can find me. And hopefully I can get you guys on my channel, because I think we have the same type of community, and we have the same subscribers, and we're part of the same team, so to speak.
We'd be delighted. I'm sure I can speak for Joe
I
on that
love
one.
it. I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. It's already a yes. You already knew that.
Good, I'm a groupie. Yay!
Well, we're a group of you, so we're excited. I'll get a reading. I'm going to get a reading after this event. So awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. Share this. What an incredible, what an honor, an absolute honor to learn and teach all at the same time. Because Scott and I, our backgrounds, I was an outdoor ed instructor for at-risk youth, and actually on one of my trips, oh my God. One of my trips, I got up and I sang to the kids. I was on a rock. They were all down as they were about to go to sleep. And I sang MLK to those kids. Wow. I just remembered that.
Wow.
Yeah. Sleep tonight. And may your dreams realized. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Wow. So cool. All right. We're going to end with Freedom Now. Please share this.
Stick around after the credits, Dauphine, if you've got the time.
Yes, Lady D, please.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Joe, roll that beautiful outro.
Here we go.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Okay, play it. Here it comes. I've just been a kid by the side of the road, watching the world Well, it's all just a show. Like those we looked up to are not who they seem. They flash their symbols in a horrible scheme. We've been lied to about so many things. The television seeps poison as the mockingbird sings. We just want freedom. We just want freedom. We just want freedom now, now. We just want freedom now. Scripts of the movies show part of the plots. Under the surface lies plenty of rots. Many actors play a devious role. Made a deal with the devil, undermined control. The leaders are blackmailed. They sold us out. Eyes and souls as black as coal. To gain their clout, we just want freedom. We just want freedom. We just want freedom now, now. We just want freedom now. We just want freedom. We just want freedom. We just want freedom now, now. We just want freedom now. No longer slaves in this human race. Explore the stars and travel space. The history we learned isn't even real. It's been rewritten as part of the deal. We've lived in a psyop, our DNA dumbed down. The world's been run by the cabal of clowns. They want us divided and uninformed, our morality gone as part of the norm. We just want freedom. We just want freedom. We just want freedom now, now. We just want freedom now,
now, now.
We just want freedom.
Freedom now.
We just want freedom. We just want freedom now, now. We just want freedom now. To raise your mind and join the fight. Unveil the truth from darkness to light. Where we go one. Where we go one. We go oh. We go oh. Where we go one. Where we go one. We go all.